To close out our conference, I want to welcome back Admiral Fagan, Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard. Yeah. The Admiral assumed duties as the 27th Commandant on June 1st, 2022, and oversees all global operations of the Coast Guard. Prior to our current duties, the Admiral was the 32nd Vice Commandant, Commander of Pacific Area, Commander, 1st Coast Guard District, and former captain of the Port of New York and New Jersey. Yeah. Further, she has more than 15 years as a Marine inspector, along with extensive interagency and intergovernment experience. Admiral Fagan has worked with both the International Maritime Organization as well as the International Labor Organization on flag state and port state issues. A graduate of the Coast Guard Academy, the Admiral also holds a Master of Science in Marine Affairs from the University of Washington and a Master of National Resource Strategy from the Industrial College of the Armed Forces. She also has the distinction of being the longest serving Marine Safety Officer and the Coast Guard's first ever Gold Ancient Triton. Admiral.
About that ancient title, but seasoned. I prefer to say seasoned, because we're. And then, as far as the captain of the Port of New York job, best job ever. I got a pretty cool job right now, but it is, having been here and serving as captain of the port was really just a highlight for me in my career. So it's always good to be back in New York and see so many familiar faces. And so I want to thank the Navy League, thank Jess for making sure that we got this lined up schedule-wise. We're going to leave here and go over to the Coast Guard Foundation dinner a little bit later. But it is a privilege to spend a little bit of time with you here this afternoon at this Maritime Security Conference. I regret that we did not have an opportunity to hear some of the earlier speakers, but by all accounts, you just have a really great program and curriculum here today. Coming together to have these conversations and have these discussions is important. It's important for the industry. It's important for us as a regulatory and an oversight agency because it's through partnership and communication and collaboration that we make the industry better and make the maritime transportation system better and more secure. And the stakes are high in the maritime transportation system. It is critical to our national security, to our economic prosperity. Our role as a global leader and power is tied to the fact that we're a maritime nation and the maritime transportation system that fuels all that prosperity. This audience knows 90% of our nation's trade flows through the harbors and inland waterways. It's a $5.4 trillion industry, 30 million American jobs. You cannot look at the prosperity of the country and not look to the marine transportation system and its direct contribution to that. And just as the Department of Defense counts on sea lift to move material, consumers count on the system to move consumer goods and fuel and other consumables. The strategic competition that's going on in the Indo-Pacific is happening in the context of the huge distances of open water. And logistics will be key to support any effort in the Indo-Pacific and any efficient movement by sea. The MTS is vital to the globally connected economy that all of the nations enjoy. And so let me talk a little bit about the future of the marine transportation system and why security and governance around that system are so critical. And our role as the United States Coast Guard, as a regulatory agency, an oversight agency, a response organization, a safety and rescue organization, the marine transportation system is our top priority. Without it, none of the rest of what we do really matters. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about the system, spent a lot of time talking with the leadership team about where's the risk in the system, how is it operating, where are there inefficiencies, and then looking into the future for what future risk may bring. Rapid advances in technology it is here now. We've got new technology coming at us at an increasing pace. Changes in the global economy, impacts of climate change, all of this converge into the maritime transportation system and the maritime industry and create both challenge and opportunities as we consider each of our respective roles in how we ensure the system is functioning efficiently. And the future of the maritime transportation system and the future security of that system depends on leaders across government and industry and internationally to recognize those changes and then focus on what the new and emerging risks are and creating opportunity around those risks. You know, we cannot prepare only for the threats that face us today. And you know, this city knows well the aftermath of 9/11, and as we focused on physical security, securing our transportation and our aviation system from kinetic attacks, and focused on vessels and facilities. And tomorrow's challenge may not be kinetic. It may come through the cyber domain or other risk areas that will challenge us to think differently about how the system is being managed and ensuring that it is resilient and ready and continues to operate efficiently. You know, security means having a resilient system that resists any kind of threat, whether it's kinetic or cyber or something from a technological standpoint. So when I think about the challenges, right, there's sort of three buckets of challenge that we collectively face. It's capacity, the overall capacity of the system to move cargo and maintain efficient operations. Environmental footprint, things like net zero carbon, new fuels, and just how the system impacts environment, and then cyber security. And you know, the increasing demand or capacity around the system definitely creates risk. You see, need look no further than during the height of the COVID pandemic and the backlogs of large ships off the port of LALB, and the resulting anchor drag and oil spill, right? All evidence of just pressure and sort of shortage of capacity and resiliency in the system. And so there are many ports that are operating at near maximum capacity, and then become limited either by the size of cranes, size of terminals, infrastructure, and shortfalls or just shortages of capacity there. And just small impacts can have really dramatic flow impacts to a cargo. I mentioned Los Angeles, the Ever Given in the Suez Canal, another example of how just one sort of impact or stressor into the system begins to have second and third order impacts. And then recently I was in Panama. It's been less than a month. A drought in Panama is challenging the Panamanian Canal Authority in how they are operating the canal. Gatun Lake, which is critical for the operation of the canal, is down 70 feet. I mean, it is a significant threat and issue to the canal now, and so it speaks both to capacity and then impacts of environmental change. So environmental footprint, and how do we work to reduce the environmental footprint? Right? The MTS is growing even as industry is working to reduce those environmental impacts. And our second new maritime security challenge is the world focuses on the impacts of climate change. And wherever you may be personally on the science, it's hard to ignore just how much climate has changed. The intensity of storms, the frequency of storms, sea level rise, sunny day flooding, all of that is here now and will only continue to challenge the industry as we move forward. So whether it's low or no carbon alternatives for fuels, of course the challenge in that conversation is, right, what fuel will the industry coalesce around, and then how quickly can infrastructure be put in place to ensure that ships have access to the new fuel. All discussions going on now around the industry and at the International Maritime Organization. Battery-operated ships like the Maid of the Mist, which is a tour boat operating in Niagara Falls that is fully powered by a battery. The hydrogen-powered Sea Change passenger ferry in San Francisco, methanol-fueled Crawley Hydrogen One, all examples of new and emerging technologies and fuels that provide reduce environmental impact. The maritime security leaders need to consider all of these factors as they talk about the MTS and how or what it will look like in the future. And so mix of fuels will add complexity and specialization. I think, the future for the industry will continue to be challenging and will continue to diversify in some interesting ways. Let me touch just a little bit on cybersecurity. There was a time 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where the discussion around cyber was, well, is it a domain? How do we talk about cyberspace? What really is the threat or the risk? Today, we don't have any of those same discussions. Everyone is aware of the risk to business, to data, to operations that the cyber domain presents. So that it really doesn't matter where you sit in the industry, whether it's us as an organization protecting our own IT infrastructure from attack, or your payroll, or your employee identification and personal information. All of that is at risk from cyber actors. The system is more heavily reliant on data today than it has ever been, and that data is valuable and really is the sort of the oil and the grease that keeps the system running and operating. So ensuring that data is in a format, one, that can be used and analyzed, but then two, that it is protected from theft and other malign actors becomes critical. Just a couple weeks ago, I was with the TSA administrator at a Western Hemisphere cyber conference, and we talked about cyber and the impacts and threats in the transportation sector. There were 25 different nations at that conference. Again, 5 or 6 years ago, many of those nations would not necessarily have been concerned with cyber, and two, would not then come and then sharing ideas and best practices around how do we protect the cyber domain. There are no national boundaries. A malign actor in cyber can sit and pick a country anywhere in the world and have an impact directly either on a company or infrastructure here in the United States, and can do it with a speed that is challenging to counter. We learned from the ransomware attack that impacted Maersk back in 2017 that even if the MTS isn't the intended target, because of the way the global economy is interconnected, the second and third and fourth order impacts of a cyber impact will very quickly begin to threaten and challenge the MTS. In the last fiscal year, the one that just concluded, the Coast Guard received nearly 300 reports of software vulnerabilities from the maritime industry. And so the good news there too is there's a trust relationship, there's conversation and communication going on around those vulnerabilities. But that is a significant increase from the previous year's reports. It just speaks to the risk and vulnerability across the sectors. So, as I talk about these challenges, right, capacity, environmental impacts, cyber, the one thing that will help in each of these areas is governance, is maritime governance, strong maritime governance that creates the kinds of solutions and impacts that can create level playing field and predictability for the industry. And strong maritime governance is built on a foundation of collaboration across government and industry. Requires a trust relationship, requires communication, collaboration, partnership. It's one of the things that I've enjoyed about working in the maritime sector is how strong those trust relationships and partnerships are. We don't always all agree on what the solution may be, but there's always willingness to come to the table and talk through those difficult problems and create, opportunity around challenges. And so, we will work to continue to create those environments where we bring partners to the table, bring waterway users to the table, so that there's clear understanding of need and what are the risks that we're balancing for best effect. And so whether it's the conversations going around offshore wind, passenger vessel fleets, commercial fishing, new users, commercial space, just to name a few things that have changed in the last several years with regard to impact and users of the waterways. But having that forum where we come together and collaborate again, creates that opportunity out of some of the challenge. And maritime governance relies on an international component. I mentioned the International Maritime Organization. We continue to work through IMO to develop codes and standards. The alternative fuel conversation, front and center now in that international body. And then we'll work as a regulatory agency to ensure that the U.S. ships comply when the new IMO requirements are established, and we'll work to ensure that foreign ships comply as well. And again, whether it's cyber or fuel or pick whatever that next emerging technology is, that partnership and communication collaboration really is the strength of this industry. And again, I know firsthand just how well that happens here in this great port city of New York. So, cyber threats, global impacts, and we continue to work to strengthen our international partnerships, continue to work to strengthen our partnerships with industry and the other, other services as well, the other military services. And we've worked since 2020 with our DoD partners to support requests for cyber assistance. We've stood up cyber protection teams. We've been hiring cyber professionals who understand the marine transportation system to work in our districts and help build those collaborative partnerships and conversations as we work to share the fact around resiliency and readiness of the marine transportation system. And we support cybersecurity globally as a Coast Guard, and we help secure our globally networked maritime industry.